I can't think. What am I supposed to?
And then I'm also reading right now, man. I'm reading stuff on how to better my craft, as far as like working with behaviors and helping teachers better
What am I
manage
supposed to
their
do?
classes. So that's where I am, man. Just trying to like get better at my
I
craft
can't.
because, like I said, I was a teacher for so long, and I knew that it got to a point where I didn't want to be in the classroom anymore. But I wanted to one work with young people, teach them how to teach them better coping skills, so that when they're in crisis, they can handle it a lot better. Because when they're out of school, what's going to happen is that the police don't, you know, take into account that you may have a disability or that you don't have the coping skills needed. So you have to teach young people how to better cope with crisis so that they can make it through it. And then the other thing is like teaching teachers how to better recognize when students are in crisis and stop putting them in crisis. And a lot of times it's through the way they teach. It's not what they teach, it's the way they teach it, that creates frustration in the classroom. And if you can, I learned this, man, because I had like really good principals that were mentors, and they showed me like, kind of like a blueprint. And then not only that, just having like great behavior management skills and being I was a behavior counselor, and then I was a behavior coordinator for years at different schools. So I learned and fine-tuned my skills on behavior management, which melded with like teaching. And so that's what, like, when I tend to like talk to teachers about what's going on, I know because I've been there, and I've taught in schools where students are far worse, man. Like, where it jumps off, like I've been in schools where there have been like fights, like 3, 4, 5 a day. So it's just one of those
The
things.
stress level those kids and staff accumulators.
And then a lot of times what happens is they put it on themselves, man. Like not the kids, but not the students, but the teachers, man. Because it's all about planning, and it's all about preparation, and one of the things we always talk about, I think one of the things that you really do well, relationships.
Thank you.
When you build relationships with the students, a lot of times, you can get them to do anything. And it's all about teaching them competency too. So just one of those things, man.
Man, and I hear that, and I think about, like, I can mentally picture where I went wrong in the classroom when I caused a crisis. And the hardest part for me was apologizing to the students, because like I'm at the point where like I consider myself an adult, and I'm dealing with children. They're saying sir, that's still kind of new to me. So having to figure out like, oh wait, I caused a crisis, because I understand what you're saying. I recognize crisis because of my own problems and the people I've dealt with in my life, right? And usually what helps me deal with that is I take them out of the classroom, have a conversation with them, right? And probably managing crisis probably has been the only good thing I started being good at it, and then I expand, then the education part came in, right? What's another way to deal with a student with crisis?
And that's the thing, you're doing the key thing. You're taking one of the things, like how you're humbling yourself, how you're saying sir and ma'am to these young people. You're giving them a face, and you're making them feel a value. And that's the one thing that doesn't happen a lot. A lot of times teachers, they want to look at the students up here instead of looking at them here. And yeah, you're older than them. Yeah, you may be smarter than them. But when they're in crisis, they don't see none of that, man. And it's a circle. And what's going to happen is, how are you going to determine to break that crisis? Because if you go back and forth, and this is what happens a lot of times in the school, you go back and forth, all it does is they argue, and you keep upping the ante, upping the ante. But one of the great things that you said is like taking them out of the classroom and not putting them on blast, not embarrassing them in front of their peers. A lot of times when students would be upset or they're in crisis, I come over to them, or they're doing something, they're being disruptive. It's like a secret. I come over and I whisper to them, I'm like, can you calm it down a little bit? Can you, like, I know you're upset, can you calm it down?
Wow.
Or you do something that's like, like you said, you take them out of the room and you have a conversation with them there. So you let them save face. And then the other part about it is that after you do it, and if they do adhere to what you say, you thank them. That's like, I really appreciate the fact. I really appreciate the fact that you did calm yourself down. One of the things that I've learned from all my years of being in education is that children love praise, and they love to be recognized. But when you recognize them in a positive way, that's when you build that relationship. And so I like, at times I preach the emphasis of like, just catch them being good. You know what I'm saying? So when you call at parents, like I call parents all the time. I called a parent last week, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "What did he do now?" And I was like, "No, bring it back, bring it back." I was like, "I'm calling you to tell you had a great day." Two of his teachers gave me reports that said he sat in there, he did his work, and this lady almost broke down in tears, man, because she's so used to hearing about the negative of what he's done instead of the positive.
We don't reinforce the positive so much. I know that I've struggled with that, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, all right, when do I actually start praising these kids, because I can see the improvement, but a lot of that comes from my dad, because he praised me behind the scene.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was always the praiser.
Mm-hmm.
My dad would praise my mom about me, but he never once told me to my face. So I don't have that custom to praise his children as much as I should.
But did your mom like tell you what your dad said?
Yeah, but it didn't feel the same.
Really?
It didn't feel the same, and that's the crazy thing.
I can imagine.
And I had this conversation with my mom again. I'm like, damn, like I just wish he was like, hey, good job, I'm proud of you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I know he was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can tell by the way he treated me, he was, way he did it.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been nice to hear. And I'm hearing this, and I'm like, you know what? These kids do deserve to be praised.
Let me tell you something, man. If a student got a 55 on the test, and he takes the next test, and he got a 62, that's growth.
That's growth.
We're celebrating that. You did great. Yeah, you may not have gotten a C, but you've moved it up a little bit. You've moved the scale. So that's showing, you celebrate that. You're letting them show that they got growth. And then while doing that, it builds competency. Like I tell teachers all the time, some work is better than no work at all. Mm-hmm. So if a student's shutting down, not want to do any work, and if I can get him to, instead of doing 10 problems, he can do 4 problems, I'll take that. And I'm going to celebrate that. And then, because he'll be like, wow, you did that. That's amazing. But, you think you can do 2 more? I bet you can't do 2 more. He'll be like, sometimes you Jedi mind trick him. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, man, it makes all the difference in the world. And like I said, these are just experiences that I've had, not only in the classroom, man, but like outside the classroom. And when it's me growing up and where I am and where I come from. And it's just one of those things that, as anybody, just makes you who you are.
Right. And let me ask you something. That would be a great time to ask, like, where are you from? Like
I was born and raised in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
It's funny. I'm born and raised in Baltimore, but I'm not a Ravens fan, and I'm not an Orioles fan. My dad was a Yankees fan.
Okay.
And when the Colts left Baltimore, we didn't have a team, so the Dallas Cowboys became our team. So I'm a Yankees and a Cowboys fan, man, for football and baseball. But born and raised in Baltimore. My dad was from Jamaica. He was from Kingston. He came here when he was about 16.
Wow, he was very young.
He came in when he was about 16. The funny thing about my dad, the only time his Jamaican accent got really heavy is when he would drink. And his tongue got real heavy, man, and the Jamaican accent would come out. But
now when he played dominoes?
He wasn't really
playing dominoes.
He wasn't. And then like the thing about it, my dad, he adored my mom. Man.
Really?
And my mom was a homemaker, and he met my mom through my aunt. My aunt actually liked my dad.
Right.
My dad liked my mom. But my dad liked my mom, and they ended up getting together. And so it was just like some of my fondest memories, man, was just like the relationship my mom and dad had. And I think that's so important when it comes to relationships with children, because children are like sponges, man. They soak up everything. You may not think they see what we're doing, but they see everything.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like I'm dating myself, man. Like VHS, video cassette, VCRs.
Yeah,
and man, like my mom would go to like the video store, and like my dad would he was just so eclectic, man. Like he loved jazz, he loved art, he loved so many types of different things that he would just put my mother up on this stuff. And they would go to the video store, they would get foreign films and with subtitles, and like they would just sit in the living room. I'd be outside playing and stuff. I would come in and out the house, and I would see them up in there just sitting on the couch, and he's just breaking the stuff down to her, man. And I was just like, so I came from a home where my dad was a stern man, and he was firm by being a military guy, but I just saw the way he adored my mom, and that's what I learned about, one of the things I learned from relationships, man, that a good man, which is funny when I, coming over here and I just like heard outside my apartment um, some kind of domestic thing going on in next door, and just so the neighbor was just like, he was like, man, you hear that? I was like, he's like, have you heard that before? I was like, no, this is my first time, and just that in a sense of being a man, like that's just some old coward stuff that like no man should ever put his hands on a woman,
Right.
and I just don't no matter what she said, no matter what she did, you just leave.
You take a breath.
And it's funny, man, because like I always say, man, like no man can ever win an argument with a woman.
Yeah.
You can't, because you just can't. Even when you're right, you're still wrong. But if you wanna like, make a woman upset, just don't argue. Like if you just leave, it'll be. And I'm telling you, man, it's like I never argue.
Were you the arguing type?
Not with women.
Really?
I don't, man, because there's no point to the substance. Like when I was younger, I may have, but as I got older, I figured it out that no comments that what infuriates women is the fact that you won't engage. And like and it's the same thing when I tell the students, even when they're going back and forth with their friends, I'm like, if you don't engage, you're not a target anymore. They got to find somebody else to bother. So
because they're trying. And that's the thing, they're trying to get a rile out of you, man.
Exactly. And if you don't engage, they got to find somebody else. And I was like, but I know it takes a lot, especially when you're an adolescent, because your emotions are up here, but your cognitive ability is down here.
And and the family part is like nobody really teaches you how to understand them. Like I remember having children having crises, and when I pull them, I'm like, do you understand what's going on? It's like, no, it's like you're frustrated.
And that's one of the great things that I say about you, dude, because the fact of the matter is that you understand that you said it, you're frustrated. And when you're frustrated, you don't have clear thoughts. You can't process why, you can't process anything. And it's not until you come down, like you said, you take them out of the room and you talk to them and you send them down, then they can start to analyze and process what's going on. That's why even when students are in crisis, I never like ask them what's going on when they're upset. Because what happens is you don't get the whole story. And it's like, you let them calm down a little bit, and then you just start to peel back the layers.
How do you help them relax? What do you help them focus on?
Well, when it's at my job and they're upset like that, my office is a calming room. So we sit there and like I have like different things like fidget spinners. I have like things that they can do. They can squeeze stress balls and things like that. And then sometimes I just let them sometimes you gotta let them just be. And just be like, you're in a good place. You're in a safe space. When you're ready to talk, let me know. And then sometimes, it may take 5 minutes, it may 10 minutes. You can't rush. The thing about it, and when I've learned through experience, you can't rush this. You got to let it play out. And then they get to a good point when they're ready to tell you what's going on. And that's when you start to peel back the layers and figure out what's going on. And the other thing, the problem is that happens with a lot of people. They try to solve that young person's problems. It happens in relationships, man. You try to solve the problem of what's going on.
You gotta. That's another thing, man.
Give me some, man.
I had to learn the best skill, and I'm grateful to Johnny and my other friends who taught me learn how to listen.
Active listening.
Just active listening. And it was crazy in my relationship. Chrisanne, she's such a good listener, and at the beginning, I was a terrible listener, man. I did not know how to listen. And part of the show started because I wanted to learn how to listen. And she was like, "How are you such a good listener?" I was like, "I don't know, just ask questions."
Because
let's expand upon that.
And this is the crazy thing, man. Like how you're coming full circle. Like when I'm working with some of my the students on my caseload. One of the things that we were working on last week is active listening. And what it is like active listening shows people that you're like right now, man. You're showing me. You're making me feel good because you're showing me that you're engaged. When you active listening, you show people that you're engaged. You care about what they're saying, so that makes them feel comfortable. And I asked the students, I'm like, how do you feel when when you're talking and nobody's listening to you? And they say it makes me upset because they're not hearing me. And that's what active listening is. And it's an exercise that we were doing. So I put them in like different groups.
Wow.
I put them in groups, and I gave them questions. And each had to ask each other the question, 3 different questions, and get that information. But what made it difficult because, every group went. And so let's say this group went first, and you had to tell what the other person said. Like, what's your favorite shoe and why? Or, what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite? It's just random questions. Like, what do you like about school? What do you dislike about school? And you had to tell the other person's answers which showed them that you were listening to them, and if you got it right, you got a point. So,
Dang.
and
you
so
made it like a game.
yeah,
Too.
exactly. So
Wow, that's so cool.
And what happened was this, like, and it's difficult because it was 3 different groups. And what happened is if you're in that third group and you've been sitting there for like about 10 minutes and everybody else has went, this group I gave extra points to because the fact of the matter is it took even longer because you could forget the information somebody gave you, you know, but they really were listening actively because they were able to say everything that person did. I was like, did you get everything correct? And he was like, yeah. So you got points for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a skill that like not everybody has, but it's one that you can learn. And if once you learn it, it shows people that you're engaged and that you care.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you just said, they really call out to me is you can learn, and you can learn it at any point in your life.
Absolutely.
You know, right now, everybody has their own opinions, right? And all they want to do is just spread that opinion, especially men, especially us. I believe that we want to, like, we know something we want to spread around. And one thing that I've noticed is that when we listen, and this is what helped me really learn how to listen, is we listen to our response, to give a response. Like, we're coming up with a response, and that gets in the way of, well, what is this person trying to say? And I remember reading a book a while back about Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you know the actor Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, he wrote this book called Green Light. I love the book because he went in this very big self-discovery journey, and one of the things he learned is that in one of the tribes he met, because he went I believe he went to Africa. Okay. This tribe were arguing, but they weren't arguing to talk. They were arguing to, like, they were forcing themselves to listen. Okay. And I just thought that was like, dang, imagine like trying to like argue, but like you're trying to understand this person. Like, you're not trying to prove a point, you're trying to understand their point of view, right? And that helped me realize, I'm like, okay, I just have to put the energy into trying to see what this person is trying to say. And back to what I was going to say, it's like you're teaching this at a very young age. And if they ever like to listen, the sky's the limits for this children.
And that's the thing about it, you know, if you teach these skills when students are really, really young, right. You know, it's stuff that they learn and it carries on with them as you get older. And as you get older, they become more productive citizens. They know how to handle crisis. They know how to communicate when they're upset. They know how to advocate. And I think that's the most important thing. And a lot of times that, you know, in life, you know, you see it day in and day out. You know, when you go to a restaurant and somebody like gets the order wrong and they fly off the handle, they yell and they scream, or when you get poor customer service, you know, and you know, yelling and screaming is only going to get your needs met for so far, you know, and so that you know, if you can communicate in a way that, like, a great example was just this last week, I'm trying to get this my exercise equipment put back on my wall, right, and so, you know, I'm talking to the lady and I'm like, you know, y'all, I paid all this money for it, and you know, I paid all this money for it. When you move, they gotta like come out and they gotta take it off the wall and put it on another wall and put it to the place where you live at. That's another like $500 for them to do this. And so, in order for them to do it, so I've done this. They send me the plate. They send me the equipment to do it with, and I'm waiting for the people to come and make the appointment. It's been over like a month, and nobody has. I know you laugh.
Nobody. I'm hearing that, like, the frustration.
And I'm talking to the lady, and I've talked to people like for like the last week, and this was like Friday, and I was just like, I was at my wit's end. I was like, man, with all due respect, and like everybody that was talking to me kept saying they're sorry, and I was like, I understand that you're sorry. I said, but what are you guys going to do to make this right? And I'm not yelling, I'm not screaming, and I was like, can I talk to your supervisor? And then I'm on the phone with the supervisor, and then she said, I said, man, don't say you're sorry. I said, let's see what we can do to fix this. And so, talking to her, and she gets the number to the people. She calls the people who were supposed to be, because my thing is this, everybody who I was talking to was telling me that they can't get in contact with the people the company that they outsource it to put it on the wall. And I'm like, lady, I have a $4,000 piece of equipment that's sitting in my living room, so basically it's a brick. I'm like, so how are y'all gonna make this right? And so, you know, just through the conversation, not getting up here, not like yelling, not screaming, they came to an ample situation where they contacted the people. The paperwork had like got jumbled up some type of way, and they're coming Saturday, this Saturday, to put it on the wall. But, you know, handling, you know, I can imagine just me yelling and screaming at that lady.
It would have
like,
not helped. It would have made the situation probably
It
worse.
probably would have hung up on me. So, and I still would have, and it probably would have like pushed it back even further because people don't want to work with you when you're like, up here yelling and screaming. They just want to get you off their face.
So let me ask you something. What helped you stay cool-headed? Because I'm seeing this and I'm mad at that. I'm already like, I would get so mad. But I know that I will have to force myself to.
I learned it from my father. Man, my father, like I said, was talking about my dad, man. My dad was just so in control of his emotions.
Really?
And when my father got angry, I knew that like he was coming for somebody's head. So a lot of times, and then when I was young, I was like, I had a very, very bad attitude when I was young. And my father, and it still sits to me this day, he always told me, he said, if you don't control your attitude, if you don't control that anger, somebody else will. And it stuck with me, and it resonated, man. Like, so it is so funny. One of the students one day, like a couple weeks ago, and I was in group. He said, "Mr. Autry," and I was like, "What's up?" He was like, "Your voice is soothing," and I was like, "Thank you." I was like, I ain't know that. I was like, "Thank you." So,
you do have that outer book reading voice, man.
So
I'm telling you.
it was. Well, thank you, man. It was hilarious, man. So, but like, I just try not to. Because like I said, because only thing screaming does is make the other person upset, and making them upset only creates that cycle of crisis. And like I said, it took a lot of work for me to get to where I am now.
Imagine,
as a man, like our conversation earlier, where I come from and the things that I've done, and it's funny, man. Like even back when being in the streets, man, like you don't treat people like trash, man. And I've seen people do that, man. And like like I always say, I was out there in the streets, man, and like, I remember one time, man, like, it was these guys down the block, and they were doing the same thing that I was doing, and they was yelling at these people, and like, just because, they were buying their product or whatever, they were yelling and treating them like they weren't even human beings.
Wow.
And, they would come see me, and I'm like, how you doing? I'm like, what do you need? I'm like, give them what they need. I'm like, thank you. And the crazy thing about that, man, is like, my homeboy was like, yo, they were looking for you, man. I was like, wow. They was like, cause you were so polite. They was like, yo, you were the nicest hustler they've ever met. And I was like, you treat people how you want to be treated. And that's just something that stuck with me. I'm like, they didn't do anything to me. Like, they haven't disrespected me. So why am I going to treat them any other way than how, I would like to be treated.
So what happened when someone disrespected you? How do you react?
It's funny. Like, between back then or back now. So I'll do a little bit of both.
Let's do now, because I like to stick to the man who you are now.
It's funny. I can give you I can give you a great example, man. One time, I was out on a date, and the guy, and like I went to the bathroom, and I come back, and the guy's pushing up on my lady, like and like she's telling them like hey, this seat's taken, and when I come back, I'm coming back, and then just like he's like drunk and everything, and he's like, I'm like, my man, like, this is my seed, he's bringing it up to here and everything, and I'm just like, oh, this is gonna get at me real quick, so I'm just taking a step back, and I'm like, look, man, we just wanna, and true, we could have got up and went to another seat or whatever, but I was like, my man, it's crowded in here, we were sitting here, you're being disrespectful, and it was going left, and so even before it happened, man, like, his homeboys, like it was about 4 of them. They actually came over, man. They actually like snatched him and said, man, we can't take you anywhere. They was like, you disrespecting these people. They apologized for him, and like like just pulled him away. And they was like, they apologized, and they appreciated me, the fact of the matter how I was handling it, and not like
escalating it.
Exactly, man. And then like you gotta think about the bigger picture, man. Like tell them what can happen after. And I also think about the fact of the matter, man, like now, man, I'm at a point where just putting my hands on somebody, man, it's just one, all it does is gonna create more problems, man. And you really got a lot to lose. In this day and age, you don't know who you're dealing with. Being a father, I come from a lineage, man, where most of the people that are in my main circle, meaning my father, my mother, and my older brother, are not here anymore. And they didn't make it until like the oldest was in his my mom was in her like early 60s. So I think about that all the time, man, because like actually, I'm 51 right now. So I'm actually like, in my mindset for the longest time, man, I'm like, I'm on borrowed time. So I'm always thinking about the way I eat, you know, exercising, trying to like, just, you know, because I want to see, you know, my children have children. You know what I'm saying, man? So it's just one of those things where like, you start to question as you get older your own mortality and knowing where you come from is it's really difficult. So I mean, you just want to do everything that you can, and like I said, trying to avoid because nothing, when it's your time, it's your time. Nothing, nobody can pull that card back, but when there's situations that can be avoided, you tend to like, just think about it. And you don't, and it's funny thing about it, man, you don't get this type of knowledge until you get older, or hopefully somebody instills it in you when you're at a point where you realize like, sometimes, you gotta be humble. And like I said, when you were dealing with the young people, dealing with the students, humbling yourself and just calling them sir, calling them ma'am, and treating them like individuals, like individuals, and giving them that respect, because a lot of times other people don't give them that, and that's the reason why they're so bitter, they're so harsh, because people don't treat them that way.
Wow, man, I'm taking in everything that you're saying, and I'm also thinking about, like I say, I'm thinking about myself, and I'm not so much looking at what I've done wrong, but I'm also now thinking like, I could see areas I can be doing better. And one thing that you mentioned is that you live in on borrowed time, in the wisdom that you get that kind of wisdom from age. I'm lucky because I had a grandfather who bestowed about this specific knowledge that I should be very keen on listening on people who are older than me who are trying to advise me in something, because their wisdom can save you a lot of time.
Absolutely.
A lot of time.
Absolutely.
And one of those things I keep hearing is understanding your own mortality. That every day, to me, every day, getting every day to wake up, I'm always thankful to God, first of all. I'm thankful, like, I just get to enjoy the day. And understanding that tomorrow is not promised helps me keep in mind, I'm like, let me enjoy the day as best as I can. And that helps me stay more focused and also be more grateful, Man, and I give a quick shout out to my grandfather because he was the one who bestowed on me like this hunger to hear other people out, So thank you for sharing that, because it's resonated a lot, and I just want to find a way to pass that on to the children and the students. I know that I'm gonna have my own way of doing it, but I love the soothing way you use, almost like sit down, let's have a conversation, and see them as people.
The same thing that you do right now. Like I said, like, man, your show is awesome, man. Like you give people a platform, and the people that you have on there are interesting, man. And that's the thing about it. Everybody has a story, and everybody's story is different, but it's just part of that thing, man. Like I love conversation with people. Sometimes I think one of the coolest things you can do, man, is like just engaging people. Like I'm a people person, man. Like I will like be in a supermarket, man, and people strike up conversations with me, and like, I'm just like, I'll have a conversation because I'm just personable, and a lot of times being a tall person, first of all, being a tall, big black man, like a lot of times you can come off as being intimidating, and I don't want that to be who I am or people see me as I am, but when you have conversations with people, then it tends to make them more comfortable, and then they're willing to like, I'll be in the supermarket and like, little old white ladies will come up to me and be like, "You're a tall drink of water," and I'm like, a little bit, and then the conversation will just come, and then and it's just and then I just want to change the persona of how people see, especially men of color. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, like I've lived in neighborhoods, man. Like I don't know, being from Baltimore, there's a part of Baltimore called Hamden, and Hamden is like an area where like it's predominantly white, but people who are of color that live in there, man, like it's not segregated, but it can be very, very kind of racist to a certain degree. And I lived there for like about 3 years, and the thing about it, man, was like as my neighbors got to know me, because at first when I moved there, this is what they were stereotypes, parties, rap music, all this other stuff, and as they got to know me and like, they see me like helping them shovel out their fronts, or, just like, if they needed help with their groceries. And I'm like, I'm not doing these things to get along with them. I'm doing these things because it's who I am, it's how I'm built. and it's just helping somebody because somebody needs help. But if people take the time to get to know other people and not just like be focused on, just that general color or that general race or stereotypes, then then you get to see that whole person for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, there are like bad people out there.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, like you got to give people a chance to like, so you can see who they are, and then you'll be surprised. So that's one of the things that I took when I lived around there. That I went away when I finally moved away from around there. My neighbors were sad to see me go.
Mm.
The guy who I was actually renting from, he wanted me to try to buy the house, but it's just one of those things. Like we try to leave that imprint of like who you are, so that when the next person comes along, that's of that color or that's of that race, they won't be
so quick to judge.
Exactly, man. So and that's just, I'm just trying to like just leave things better than like what I saw, man, I just live my life and just be happy, man. That's all you can do.
That energy you reflect, man, and it's probably I would say the height, I can see how it can be intimidating, but you always, every time I see you always have that smile in you, man, and that's power. That's energy that you're reflecting into others, and people don't realize that they're drawn to it. Like you go to Panera, you go anywhere, you start with a smile. The 9 out of 10, the service is going to be a lot better, especially if it's a genuine smile.
When people just want to just like be of service, and they like and it's because if it's their job, and because I'm pretty sure there are times you went into stores and like people were just like they could tell they didn't want to be there, and like and I'm like, I'm sorry that like you have a job that sucks and you don't want to do it, but this is what you chose. But it's the same thing in our field, man. Like we go to work, there are people who are in there like are miserable, and my thing is, it's a job. You don't have to do it. Like if it makes you this sad, it makes you this angry and it's bitter. Like find something else to do.
I think there's some people just like that mystery, or they're addicted to it, or they're just so used to it. They can choose just like you can choose happiness, you choose mystery. And you just don't realize you're choosing it.
And that's one of the saddest things that you can do, man. If like you want to wallow in like just sadness and not being happy, man. So, and it's just one of those things where like I get up in the morning, Mr. Randolph, and I talk about it every day, man. Like I get up and I go to work, man. I love what I do because one, it's what I chose, and they say do something you love, you never have to work again a day in your life, but there are some days that are harder than others, and like it can be a challenge, but the thing about it is just that it's what I chose and what I enjoy, and a lot of people aren't blessed enough to be able to do that because one, they haven't taken the strides to like chase what they want to do, and that's the thing, and that's why it's so funny that this conversation, because like we're in the barbershop and we got on the topic of like minimum wage and how they're upping minimum wage, and a lot of times people are like it needs to be more, and yeah, like the cost of living is high, but when you really break down what minimum wage is a starting wage. You're supposed to start there. You're not supposed to be there for like 10, 15 years, You're supposed to, and I was telling the guy in the barbershop, I'm like, no, it's a starting wage. You have to fine tune your skills.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Like it just hit me.
You have to fine tune your skills. You have to get better at what you do, or get some type of certification, some type of degree, or
there's so many things too.
You have to find a way to better your skills to make yourself more valuable, that they will pay you more. But like I said, like you can't expect to raise a family, pay for like rent or car insurance, all these other things, on making minimum wage. Wow. It's a starting wage. You're supposed to start there. Like I said, 8 to 10 years from now, you're not supposed to be still making that same amount. You have to come up with a plan, and so you can't blame somebody else or be keep waiting for the government to say we're going to up it to 15, we're going to up it to 20, because eventually what happens is this. Well, you ever think about that person? Like, I think the minimum wage is coming up to like almost like $15 an hour.
Really?
So let's say this. Let's say if you're already making $15 an hour, and I come into the job and they're starting me at $15 an hour. Shouldn't you be making more since you've already been there as longer, and you should the time that you've put in? Shouldn't you be guaranteed a raise? And then I tell people all the time, you gotta think about the business too, of when it is making minimum wage, So the business has to up the minimum wage. Would you ever stop and think about that they may have to let people go? because they can't pay for all they can't pay for all the people who work for them now because they're not be making enough. I was like, you gotta look at this whole picture of what it is, but also you can't like put the blame on anybody else but yourself, you know. And that's why I try to like bring it back to our young people is that whatever you want to do, you gotta work hard to it. You gotta come up with a plan, and you gotta work your plan, and you gotta figure it out because, like I said, nobody's gonna give you anything. People want to help children, but when you become an adult, nobody wants to help adults, and this is why you have to understand that you have to take in what we're giving you, and that's why I'm so serious because a lot of times I've worked with young people, and I've seen them after they've gone out of high school and gone on with their lives. You see them and they're like, I should have listened. And when you're caught up in that moment, you don't want to listen. And then it's no Monday morning quarterback. I told you so. I'll never do that to anybody. But now it's like, okay, so now you see. So what are you prepared to do now so that you can get to where you need to be?
Exactly. Like now you can start listening.
Absolutely.
When you tell yourself, I should have listened. Now you can start listening.
Yeah. Because sometimes that's what the thing. Sometimes some people they have to fall down or hit their head or reality got to wake them up because then they don't tend to think that it's not going to happen to them. And when we were talking about earlier, I had my moment, man, when I was in the streets, man. And that I knew that this was going to take me only 1 or 2 places, and I knew where it was going to go. And for me to be as smart as I was, man, but like I said, that was one of the things. Not only being book smart, but God bless my older brother who gave me them street smarts and he showed me how the game was played and what to be doing, how to make moves, and that is a dangerous thing when you have somebody who's book smart and street smart, and when you're out there in the streets, you don't make as many mistakes, So, but also it makes you wise enough to understand that this run can't last forever. So you got to figure out an exit strategy or an exit plan. And it took that night, man, for what happened to me to realize that I got to get out of this game because I know where it's going to take me at. And
I have a question. It just occurred to me. When you're having children who seem to go into that trajectory, do you tell them some of the things?
Absolutely. I mean, I've had students that and I knew they were in that life, and and I've taught elementary, I've taught middle school, and I've taught high school, and I've had high schoolers who, I knew that they were in that life and they were out there in the streets like that, and you try to tell them, but everybody has their own journey because you made some of them listen, some of them didn't, and then it's the crazy thing about it, was the ones who didn't, I've actually gotten calls from I was at a high school in Baltimore. They called the school from jail. And Mr. Autry, I should have listened. And do you think when I go to court, you think you can be a character witness, or they're going to see their probation officer and Mr. Autry, can you write me a letter? I'm like, well, you want me to lie and say that you're doing well in school, that you're doing what you need to do, but you're not. So why am I going to help you? So give you that opportunity so that you can just keep on doing what you're doing. So
you're not gonna learn your lesson.
Exactly.
I can imagine how hard it must have been though, because I'm sure you care, or it wasn't that hard.
The fact of me telling you that I won't do it is showing you that I care, because me giving you that pass to let you keep going on the path that you're going on, it's showing you that I don't care, because what's going to eventually happen is you're going to go further down the line. Yeah, you may be slick and you're going to get away with it, but you'll keep going back doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. And if somebody else may write the letter for you, but it wasn't going to be me. And it doesn't mean that I don't care, but it means the fact of the matter is that I care enough to hold you accountable. And I think that's a lot of times that's that thin line. Students, teachers want to be students' friends, and you can't be their friends. We can have things
just
in
like
common.
Parents.
Yeah, same thing.
Just like parents. And I was just having a conversation with the parents, you have to hold your children accountable, meaning if you say you're gonna take that phone away or smash the phone, whatever it takes. You gotta get the message out, you mean what you're gonna say. What do you think parents, and this is just my own curiosity, what do you think parents have a hard time holding their own children accountable?
It's
like our parents who they made their.
Yeah, because it's a reflection of how those parents were raised.
Okay.
Because like I said, everything is learned behavior, and the way that I parent is the way that like my parents parented me, but I have also added and learned some things as I've gotten older. But a lot of the things that happen in my life, man, the way I parent is comes from like the way that I was raised.
Wow. Yeah.
And when like you said, like when you got parents that want to be their children's friends, just because you're buying them shoes and you're getting them video games and you're doing all this stuff, you know, there has to be expectation. You have to hold them accountable. Like I can't believe that like some parents will just be like ask their child to take out the trash and the child is like still like won't do it. Like if my father told me and my mother told me to take out the trash, because my mother was just as, don't get me wrong, my mother was just as tough as my father, and oh my god, my mom was, she was just I it's like
I can see by
dude,
your
man,
players,
like
man.
she was just so cool, and you don't realize how cool your parents are until you get older, but your friends. When you have your friends over to your house and your parents are like, your friends will be like, man, your mom and dad are so cool. And you're like, right, whatever. But when you get like 18, 19, 20 years old, you start to reflect and be like, wow, you get that, you just all those gems that they dropped on you. You're just like, man, my parents are so dope. And hopefully, that they're still around where you can learn to give them their flowers and tell them how much you appreciate what they've done for you and how they, I had that with my mom, even though my mom, she passed away when she was in her early 60s, but my dad passed away when I was 16.
Oh wow.
And I mean, man, like I said, but in those 16 years, he gave me so much. I saw what a real man was. I saw how he provides for his family. I saw how he makes sacrifices. So I saw enough of it to be like, that's how I want to be, and that's the path that I've taken in my life. Because a lot of times I pattern I think about some things that this is like what my father was, what my father would do. My father was just such a great cat, man. Like
really?
So, and then like I said, I had like that immediate circle of like my mom, my dad, and my older brother. They shaped me so much into who I am, and a lot of the stuff that like I said, I learned to be cool from my dad was cool. My dad was like old cool, like my older brother. He was just slick. He
was smooth with it.
He was that guy. Like he was. My older brother was 6'8", and
wow.
He was, man. I call him T.O. From the football player Terrell Owens, because Terrell Owens had a line and people would say he loved him some him, and like whenever my brother was walking down the street, man, like his clothes, man, his drip was so, man, he was so, he was always, he would walk by a car that was shining, man, he was always looking at himself, man, because he was always, it wasn't a time when he wasn't on point, and I wanted to be like my older brother, like, so like when my mom would try to take me shopping, I didn't want to go shopping with her, I wanted to take like, give the money to my brother and let him take me shopping, and she would just give him the money and be like, get your brother what he wants, and I wanted what he wanted, and I just remember going into his room, he always had like the GQ magazines and the pictures.
So he studied. He studied.
He liked, and I think that's comes from me. Like that's how I am. I like clothes. I like shoes. I like fashion.
So that's where the love came from.
Oh man, my it's just funny, man. Like I really don't think about it. I just love clothes, man. I love clothes. It's so funny, man. Like when I have you over, man, I'm gonna like show you like my shoes and like my cloth. Like my closet is huge, dude. Like so, but it's just one of the things that makes me happy, man. It's my therapy.
So why get rid of it? Yeah, man. So let me ask you something. Where the specific love of polo came from? Because every day you always have the polo, one or another, and it's matching to the T.
It's funny. I have lots of other different styles of clothing that I wear, but it started off with I don't know if you remember Lacoste, the alligators. I used to wear like
I believe I've seen them, yeah.
A lot of Lacoste stuff, and then and I had some like Ralph Lauren stuff mixed in there, and then their clothes fit me. Like they have like a big and tall section, and even like their clothes that aren't big and tall, the fit, like I like the style, I like the fit, and I stick to what I like, and like and it's just one of those things where like it just started growing and growing and growing and growing, and man, and then it's now, it's so funny, man, because like I give away a lot of stuff, man. Like I just actually, at the barbershop that I go to, I actually gave away. I gave away like 6 pairs of jeans and
That's
and
cool,
about
man.
8 shirts, man. Like, cause one, I couldn't fit them anymore, and two, it's just like, it gives me more room to buy more stuff. But
Yeah, when that remember, it's when one thing comes in, another one comes out.
but it's just like one of those things where, like I said, I learned it from my older brother, and like, and honestly, my philosophy is, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you work good.
It's clothes. How you dress is a representation of how you're feeling,
Absolutely.
how you want to be seen. And sometimes you see a little people, and you're like, what is he trying to be seen like? I'm not trying to judge or anything, because I was that person at times.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, maybe something's going
Like
on with him.
like when you come in all the time, man. Like, you came in today, man. The sweater, like, I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's
Funny enough, when I saw this sweater, I'm like, I thought of you, because I like thrifting. My thing is thrifting.
Mm-hmm.
I love. I don't know why it's about thrifting. Well, I guess because I grew up. My father was worked at flea markets, and we always had something used in our home, but they made it work. And they took me as a kid, and I fell in love with that yourselves. I love yourselves.
But that's the thing about it. You can go to, like, there's some, because I know there's some thrift stores, man, that you can go to, man. And they have some of the best stuff, man. And what I tend to do, man, there's like a couple stores, consignment stores, that what I do sometimes, man, is like and I don't do it for the money. I do it for the fact of the matter of, like, because sometimes, like, I'll have my friends. I'm like, dude, because some of my friends, a couple of my friends wear a size 10 shoe, and I'll be like, when I moved, I was like, dude, I'm not taking some of this stuff with me. I think I gave away like about like 16 pairs of shoes, man. When and I was just like, come get this stuff. If you want it, come get it. And it's just the nature of it. But I just, like, if I don't wear it. And then a lot of stuff, I'll be sometimes I want to be wore. Like, my daughter makes fun of me. She was like, if you see me in something, you probably won't see it again for like for like maybe like 6 months or like next year. And like the ladies at the job, they made fun of me because one of them was like, she said, Miss Archer, I haven't seen you wear the same pair of shoes twice. And I was just like, yeah, because I haven't. Like, not sounding cocky or anything, but it's just one of those things, man, where, like, I've just been that way, man, ever since and I think also, being in the streets, man, like, making that money, and then, like, it was just like, just wanting to, like, and there's the thing about it. That's one of the biggest regrets that I ever have about that lifestyle that I led. I didn't do more with it, and it irks me to my soul, man, that the amounts of money that I made. I have one friend who actually, not only did, like, he took his money and bought real estate, or rented, and like now he owns like homes that he rents out and all this other stuff. He has a couple businesses, and he did it the right way. And I was at that point in my life, man, where I was just, just, I at one point, man, I didn't even buy a car. Cause I was just like, I would catch taxis in Baltimore. It's called the hack. It's like an illegal taxi, and I would just go places. I never bought a car, and it was just one of those things where, like, I should have managed my money a lot better, and when I didn't, and like to this day, sometimes it irks me because I think about the money that I left on that table, man. Like, I could have, like, done so many other things with, but I tend not to beat myself up with it, but, like, it does, like, sometimes I think about it. It was like, what could I have done differently?
But do you think if you were to use that money to purchase things that you might still have in possession, wouldn't that have a sort of tie of who that you were before? And by not having that purchase, you're no longer tied or bound to that life anymore?
I'm always gonna be tied and bound to it because, like I said, I still have, I still have dudes that I know who still got their feet in it. And then my thing, and like, and they're not gonna stop being my friends because of who they are and what they do. But, they do what they do, I do what I do. Like, we definitely in different directions, in different places in our lives, but I don't knock them for what they do, but it's just like, it's not my thing anymore. So I don't think that I would just feel like, when I'm looking at, like, oh, I know what this stuff bought me, but I also know what it did. Like, it through that lifestyle, I know without it, I wouldn't have been able to, like, get my daughter the proper tutoring that she needed, or when she needed braces, you know, just working a regular job and like trying to like pay for braces and pay for like my take care of my mom and take care of my brothers and take care of like my daughter, and you know, those types of things. So a lot of times, you know, it was not only out of necessity, but it was also out of a choice. And I think that, you know, our own paths are guided, you know, through who we are. But it's like, you know, we do have a choice of like the direction that we do go in. And like I said, man, that fateful night, you know, that's when I knew that it was time for me to go in a different direction. But I don't resent what I did. I know it made me who I am.
Right.
But the fact of like, you know, as we were talking earlier, like I have a lot of friends that like that weren't fortunate enough to either, you know, be smart enough to get out or to go a different direction, and you know, they're in jail or some of them are even dead. You know, so I just know that I actually was able to deviate, man. So.
And what I'd like to hear is like your life experiences, however other people might, you know, label them. It made you who you are.
Absolutely.
And as a person in his thirties, is like I gotta keep that in mind, because I frown upon a lot of my life because of the things I did, the things that happened to me. But if I really think about it, it's like, just like you said, it made me who I am.
And you know, and everybody's gonna have their opinion, man. Like, you know, can I cuss?
I'll leave it out.
But I really don't care like what people think, you know, because people are gonna think what they want to think about you anyway, man. So like my thing is to just be the best person that I can be, and like, yeah, like, you know, it's so funny, man. I think one of the best lines that I ever heard, man, because I'm a big guy with like quotes and stuff, was a baseball player, David Ortiz. And when David Ortiz got caught taking steroids, he was at a press conference and he was like, "There's only one man that was perfect, and he killed him. I'll answer no more questions." And I was just like, and to this day, man, I always remember that there's only one man that's perfect, man. So like I keep that like, you know, I'm far from that. So like, you know, I'm gonna make mistakes on this journey, you know, and it's all about like, you know, just how you rebound from them, and you know, and then the thing about it, like, you know, even when you make those mistakes, man, like, you know, just being mindful of the people that like, you know, that, and that's like one thing that I tried to do when I was like, you know, not to wrong anybody, because like I said, we talk about all the time about energy and karma. I'm a big fan of energy and karma, man. Like the energy you put out is the energy you get back. And even back then when I was out there, I just tried to like, you know, play fair with everybody. You know, so in a sense, that it's guided me into the life that I'm in now, man. Like that, I'm just like, you know, just I don't judge people. You know, like even with our students, like, you know, I don't judge them. You know, I meet them where they are and try to like guide them and like on that path to like, you know, so they can like, you know, like I said, just be a better person and like learn how to cope with frustration and with stress. Because I think a lot of times that's the one thing that we as a people, like we don't deal with stress well. And yeah, when you learn to deal with it and understand it, and like you know, sit back, take those deep breaths, and then just like, and you had just had that woosah moment, and then you figure out a plan. You know, you have your pity party, you have your moment, and then you just go from there.
You give time yourself to grieve whatever went wrong, and then it's like, all right, look inwardly, what I do wrong before, because naturally we look outwardly when we fail. And then, like you said, build a plan. I like that, man. Damn, man. So many, you dropped so many truth bombs, man.
They're
today.
not mine, man. They're just like you know, in the course of my life, man. Like I said, man, it's been a magical ride for me, man. Like I said, like even the ups and downs, man. From the lowest of the lows, man, to the highest of the highs, man. Like I just take all that input in, man, and like just, you know, let it like be a reflection on like, you know, who I am, and like use it later on in life, man. Like I think you were in there. I don't know if you were in there one time where we were I was doing a PD, and the Jay-Z, man, was just like, you know, information without understanding, man, is useless.
Information without understanding is useless.
And so that's one of the things that like I try to tell the teachers, that, you know, when you're giving them this concept, you gotta make it relatable. Make it relatable to who they are, and just like, you know, like if let's say like you were teaching a session on like percentages, like, or just doing discounts. Our young ladies in our school, they love makeup. The young guys, they love video games. They love soccer. They love all these sports. If you just put that into like, a math problem, they're gonna be engaged. They're gonna like, you gotta make it interesting to them. You gotta make that connection so that they don't look at it as like, oh, I hate math. You got, you gotta make math enjoyable. You gotta make reading enjoyable. And sometimes, you gotta like extend it, and that's why you gotta like do that. That's why planning is so important, just to like give them a reason to like want to do it. You gotta make it engaging. You gotta make it fun. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Mr. Autry, for everything, dude.
This
has been such a fun conversation.
Thank you
very intake.
Thank you for having me, man. Like I said, I always enjoy you, and you're just like your energy from morning to the afternoon. And you were one of those gentlemen that when I first got there, I didn't know anybody. You came up to me and you just every morning you were just like, hey, how you doing? And like it made me feel good. And then just getting to know you even more from Mr. Randolph and just watching that camaraderie between you two, I definitely wanted to be a part of that.
Man, and you became part of it, man. Because honestly, it's like when I go there, like I can see it, like, all right, Mr. Autry's gonna be the dog. I'm gonna say first person to say hi, and usually it just gets my day going. But no, seriously, thank you for sharing the stories. I know that the message, the right person will hear the message, and I'll just leave it at that. So, and I know you said that everything you're saying, you took from someone, that you learned from someone, but nevertheless you embody everything, all your lessons, and that just makes you a great guy, man. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you as well.
You're awesome. And I was actually looking forward to you curse. I wanted to bleep it out, but another episode.
I pulled it back.